Apparel today with my name on the back. It says my name, okay. It says Martin on the back. I couldn't afford to take it to Sports Direct and get them to print things on the back, so I just wrote it on in purple poster paint, which is a little bit of an odd thing. Oh, she chooses now to go to the toilet.
Oh no! Oh, the guilt! The guilt!
The guilt. So this is a little poem I wrote specifically for this evening, and it is called Salt, so I hope you enjoy. There were these 8 Boy Scouts on a boat from Southwark, a self-negotiated deployment. Their bodies floated home that day on the back of the Queen's destroyer. We had time to weep for those little boys, but little time to pray. Churchill knew our desperate value when he set that ship to sail. At 7 we went to Quarry Bank to be a parish apprentice. If we survived to 21, then we'd have served our basic sentence. We were born into torture, enslaved orphans, sons and daughters of the paupers. Then out of the taxing world to the poorhouse if you couldn't afford it. And that's where my great-grandfather met his fate. Many men would never leave after walking through those gates. And while our sisters worked the lights, guarded coastline night and day, we marched twice into Revelation, and a few of us marched away. 1 in 6 before 1 fell from the sickness. So we stockpiled our children in the hope that they'd lift us. And then they grew and birthed the great answer. At the gates we brought a standstill. Emily threw herself at Anma. Half of us refugees from Ancoats carving Eden out of anthills. They promised us a land for heroes, but now the paint flakes and the damp kills. So they built us all a council house and flats amongst our friends and kin, electric lighting and heating too. It didn't take us long to settle in. Get the neighbours in for a brew, now we've got the kettle in, nanas out and pinion curlers, blind and heck and threatening. Until you sold our souls off. Our jobs and sense of pride, the highest bidder, whether it be the Mail, the Guardian or Times. You flogged our homes off to the landlords, the rent spiked overnight. We lived and breathed society, but now our chests are getting tight. We who bawl for your princesses, we who marched to war, but when it all came down to it, we were like Emily under that horse you threw us. Like Lowry drew us, we were matchsticks, then you blew us. We were noble creatures, the salt of the fucking earth, but now the salt's pronounced us scum, and our future's getting worse. Peace. Thank you.
Right, that's the outro. Check out the post now.
Come on, get more poem, more!
One more.
You're not getting away with that today, one more poem!
Poem about Carl.
Okay, just give me a second, Carl. A poem about Carl? I did have a poem about Carl.
Yeah, go on.
I don't know this one.
What about freedom on a bus?
What about freedom on a bus? I don't think I've got it written down. No, I've got it out. Give it a go.
What?
Good.
The weather's fucked and I'm pretty rough, so I'm trying to get some green in. 3 guys roll up looking sketchy as fuck and my fucking heart keeps beating. I'm like, they got 3 offers, fam, you gotta choose between one. Pick one. Either a beamer, a necklace, or freedom. And you see that chain weighed far too heavy around my neck and I can't even drive yet, so I chose freedom. But before I got a chance to speak to them, they disappeared completely and I'm thinking to myself, I've never received such an existential gift before and I can't keep freedom in my bedside drawer. And how could I look my ancestors in the face if I let this freedom go to waste? So as I'm internally discussing, I let those ideas keep shuffling how to do this gift justice. I bump into my boy Pooh. And I ask him what it means to truly be free, and it's
It'll be 3:30.
it's nearly 3:30 and P's already placed. As am I.
Wait,
There's more. And I ask him what it means to truly be free. He looks at me blankly, it's like 3:20 and P's already blazed. He says your world's a shadow that's projected on a cave, and until we step outside we'll exist to be their slaves. And I'm like, wait, fuck, who are they? But instead of asking my question, P just makes a suggestion. He says, I'm hungry and I ain't had no breakfast. I look at him blankly. I can't remember the words to this.
You went to McDonald's.
Yeah.
Breakfast finished at 10.
It's fine just saying bits of it.
I thought I got
Ben's demanded I do a poem that I don't know the words to.
Damn you, Ben.
Yeah, damn you, Ben.
Mate, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's easy. That's easy.
Carry on, Molly. Go on, you got it.
Jumping wherever.
Got it in the bag.
Let's get it in the bag. Let's get a McMuffin, because I ain't had no breakfast.
Yeah.
I said, nah, I don't eat McDonald's. I swore never again because of capitalism, the environment, and breakfast finished at like 10:30. So I get KFC. And when I lean over, the waitress says to me, she thinks she's got the answers. She's seen it in the cards. Our reality's artificial. We're all just brains in jars. She says to me to always know I think, therefore I am, but if the earlier words were true, then we're in a fucking jam. So I eat my food quickly and I hurry for the bus, and as I eat my food in a rush and I'm juggling my existence as I'm walking to the bus. I decide to ask the driver what he thinks that freedom is. He rolls his eyes and shakes his head and starts to tell me this. I like to prescribe to the idea that the devil was the original free thinker and that freedom is just our destiny to be sinners. We're not God's children, we're something completely different. Wow. So I sit above the wheeled arch and my thoughts start to collide. Everything feels a little easier now the devil's on my side. And then I start to think, how do I know I'm free if I'm still confined? So I get off at the next stop and I start walking. An old bloke walks alongside me and he starts talking. He asks me where I'm going, so I tell him to be free. And he says, well, where's that, mate? I don't know, mate, you tell me. Well, I was told as I strolled on the road to Wigan Pier that freedom is the right to say what they didn't want to hear. But I didn't want to hear that. I wanted feedback, so I fall back. I try to add it all up because this whole situation has got my head fucked. See if I can remember this bit. This is the hard bit. How does it go? How does it go? Does anybody know how it goes? Anybody? Richard, do you know how it goes?
I said the two bits I know.
Yeah, you said the bit the two bit. Yeah, great guys. Yeah, it's demand I do a poem that I don't know the words to, and then you've all forgotten it.
Sum it up. I like you said this one. Sum it up.
Okay. So we live in a world that's just the projections on a cave, and our world is just brains in jars. Freedom is the right to say do what we are, to think of things that bring down kings without fear of backlash. So I'll take the freedom back to those guys, and I'll swap it for some hash. Cheers. We got there in the end, didn't we? Cheers, man. Cheers for giving me a poem I don't fucking know. 14 pages long! So let's do one that I actually know.
Go on, Martin.
Go on.
Okay. I was born on a precipice trying to fall away from prejudice, no financial or emotional, so I relied on my intelligence. But now my future looks indefinite. And Mr. Gove says my expertise are now irrelevant. I became a master at amassing copper, a prince at being a pauper. I started from the bottom, now I'm somewhere around here. Still pretty close to the bottom, but I feel the dawn is near, or maybe that's just the street lights. I'm trying to make it out, but I can't quite tell through those bed sheets they use as curtains. I fell for that a few times, but for now I can't be certain where this path may lead or where this bus is taking me. Clipping up my taillights, these demons keep on chasing me, but you know, a lone runner, he stands little chance of balancing, but if we all run together, then it quickly becomes a marathon. And if we hold each other up, just like Ali did for Jonathan, then we cross this line together. We finish this race as one. See what we did there is something they couldn't have predicted. By turning our back on competitions, we shattered all their systems, designed to keep them rich and keep us at the poorest, but when we are one family, it's impossible to ignore us. That old adage, divide before you conquer, so they separate us at first by gender, then by colour, and they tell us that the other is the root of all our woes, that we have to fear our neighbour because he or she is one of those. But while we fought between ourselves, you see their power stocks just rose. But they can never be our emperors if we can see through all their clothes. We can only play the cards we've been given, but maybe at a rush we could stack our cards together and we can make those royals flush. If we make places at our tables and we cast off all our doubts, Well, they'll keep playing their highest card, and we'll play this full house. Thank you. Right, so after me trying to perform all the parents at their birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Richard Redwood.